Hi, today I am going to attempt to explain subnetting in a way that isn't overly complicated. I'm not a pro. Uh, I did get 100 on this subnetting workbook. It's like 89 pages or something crazy. Yes! What? So I feel confident enough to explain how I did that. Um, I know that I really struggled with this the past two terms. Uh, well, the last term I had a little introduction into subnetting near the end of it, and this term I've gotten pretty much a full week of one of my classes dedicated to it. Um, I spent like 2.5, 3 days on this workbook. I mean, it took a lot of time. Um, Most of it's pretty straightforward. There's some things that are a little bit confusing. There's some discrepancies with what you do in certain situations, and I'm going to go over three problems that uh, I feel like should cover pretty much everything with the basics of performing subnetting. So I hope you enjoy this video and get something out of it. Maybe help you get past a snag, or just maybe a different way of looking at doing it. Um, so what we're looking at here, this is it's an app called Drawboard. When I got this document, it was in a PDF form, and there weren't entry blocks or entry fields for everything. They would show you examples where they wanted you to do the work, but it didn't have an entry field for everything. So I've got this PDF editor called Drawboard, and found a way to streamline doing that and make it a little bit easier and more efficient. Once you get going, you get different classes, and you work out what you're going to be using to do it, your little guides and things, and you can just copy and paste them into the next field and just figure out what you're doing from there. So for this, I'm going to go over a couple things first real quick. So with this, they're going to give you a few different types of questions. You're going to have to, in the beginning of the workbook, you're going to have to do some really basic stuff like identify the class of the network and all this stuff. I'm not going to go over all that, but for a lot of this stuff, it's going to be like they're going to ask for the number of needed subnets, or provide the number of needed hosts or usable hosts, or something like this. And it can seem a little daunting, but I've found a way to make it a little less stressful. So we're going to get right into that. So let's look at this. Well, that's too far down. Alright, so this is the first one. We're going to start with a Class C address. I filled out some of these fields so that we can just kind of move a little quicker here, but I'm not going to move too quick to where I gloss over too much and you don't get what you need out of it. So anyway, they'll ask you a question like this. They'll either ask for like number of hosts that you need, or a number of needed subnets is what they'll ask you for. And they'll provide the network address, or they'll do something crazy and they won't ask for any of that, and they'll just put a CIDR notation right here. And we'll get into that when we get to one like this. Alright, so pretty much the first part of this problem is the easiest part ever. What is your default subnet mask for a Class C address? It's always going to be this. Okay. And we know this is Class C because Class C addresses are anything in the first octet, which is your first three numbers or whatever numbers there. You'll have everything divided by a decimal here, 3 decimals, 4 separate numbers. So your first one happens to be between 192 or 223, so we've got a Class C address. Bam. Fantastic. To figure out the rest of this stuff, okay, we have to do some stuff like this. Now this is what I found is the easiest way to do this. They'll have this already this sort of thing, kind of given an example on the first few problems, and then as you continue down in the workbook, and it's going to provide you with less and less. But Drawboard has some really neat options. It'll start out kind of confusing. I've added things to this bar. You can just drop shit in there, and you can just click there instead of pulling up this guy. If you just want this to go away, it'll just turn to a dot. Wow. So in order to figure this out, we're going to first figure out how many subnets we need. Well, it says we need 8. Okay, so if we need 8 subnets, and we're working with this junk right here, then, I don't know why this is up. Get on my face. No. Stop it. Okay. So, I've got it where on the drawboard, I'm using this red line. You can make the line any color, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you can make it whatever color. So, we need 8 subnets, so our number of subnets are right here, right? Here's our binary value. Here's the number of hosts up above that. Just look at the subnet chart. Look at it. And then here are the individual bits of our IP address in the 4th octet here. Well, we've lined all this up. Got my red line. Boom. Now, when you're doing this, you want to put the red line to the right of the number of subnets and to the left of the number of hosts that you need. So again, your number of subnets is going to be on the left, the number of hosts is going to be on the right. So, we've got a little highlighter here. Boom. Shisha. Now we found pretty much all of the answers for the top portion of this. How have we done this? With this magic red line. I'm going to click on my text box thing here. I'm going to put one right here. Alright, so how do we get the answer to this? Well, we're going to add our bit values. Alright, so from left to right, we have 3 bits that are now considered on. We will add these 3 values. It's 128 plus 64 is going to be 192 plus 32. It's going to equal 224. It would be good practice for you to like memorize the way that this adds up as you go along. So 128, 192, 224, 240, 248, 252, 254, and then finally 255, which is the maximum that you can have in any octet, period. Okay? So now we have some answers. So since we now have 224 total here, that's what we're going to put at the end of this default subnet mask. So it's going to be 255.255.255.224. And I know it looks really messed up, but I get my pointer tool up here. Yay. Give them room to live there. So the number of subnets that we have is exactly 8. Where's that thing? Here we go. 8. Number of the total number of hosts, so it'll give us 32 hosts. So let's put a 32 there. Fantastic. And the number of usable hosts, now this is important to remember. It's always going to be 2 less than this. So we actually only have 30 usable hosts here. So we're going to put 30. And the number of bits that we just borrowed, when we do this here and we divide out anything that we've turned on, we're technically borrowing that one value from over here, from the host, or from the network ID portion. So this is 3 bits that we just borrowed. 3. Oops. Okay. Now for the fun part. I had originally done this portion wrong, but it's right now. Don't worry. There may be some other thing here where they want you to show them. I can't even think of what it's called now. The bit pattern, I believe, is what this is called. And it's pretty much the same. To be honest, I think you just put a decimal in there if it climbs over into another octet, you know, to the left. But your bit pattern, I'm gonna just kind of drop that in there and talk about it because I've actually no. There we go. There's our bit pattern. I mean, you can see the decimals on this side. So now we're going to start coming up with our ranges. Um, so our first one is going to be obviously 196.124.12.0. Whoa, what happened here? Okay, so to save a little bit of time, I fast forwarded a little bit, and so here are the ranges, and I'm going to explain how we get this. So here I've highlighted the binary value, the bit value here. When you do this, this is called incrementing, and it's going to increment by 32 in this case, where we've drawn the line. It's also it's under here. It's right here with subnets, number of subnets. They hang out together. They're involved. So it's going to be 0, then 32, then 64, 96, 128, 160, 192, 224, and then that's the end of your subnet address, the first address in your ranges. So your first range is going to be 196.124.12.0 to 196.124.12.31. Now, the easiest way to figure out your ranges is to just ignore all this stuff. Oh, poop. Nah, all this over here. Just don't worry about this. Increment by this number all the way down until you pretty much get to a range where it will take you to the last number on this side will be 225. And the way to figure out this side is to subtract. So we're going to say from 196.124.12.0 to blah 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 to 1, it'll go to 31 because your range of the previous is always going to be one less. So it won't go to 32 here. This up here won't go to 32. It'll go to 31. And then this one down here, it won't go to 64. It'll go to 63. And then your next here will be 64. This is that might be a little more confusing the way I've explained it, but the best way to do it is to just start here and just do your incrementing, and then say, when you get pretty high up, you get like right here, especially if we're using 32. What is 32 to this? It's going to be, it's going to be 220 or 256, which we can't have, so it'll be 255. This would be 256 if that existed, but it's not. It's not real. So then you just, subtract. What's 1 from 32? 31. What's 1 from 64? 63. Blah, 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 blah. And, obviously earlier I said that I'd mess this up, so I fixed it. And now we can answer these questions. So, how do we answer these questions? Let's take a look. What is the 6th subnet range? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right here. This is it. 160 to 191. Okay? So, it's going to be 196, I think, right? Yep. .124.12.160 to 196.124.12.191. I thought this was going to be a big enough box, but obviously it isn't. How about that? There you go. Okay. Damn. Quit it. Okay. What is the subnet number? Now, this is the first one. This is this right here. This is your subnet number. So the fourth one, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to be 96. It's 196.124.12.96. So we'll put that right there. All right, another answer. What is the subnet broadcast address? Now this is your last one. This is always your last in the range. So for the 6th subnet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's going to be 191. The answer is basically right here. They won't do that, but the principle of it is simple enough. You just look at what you've come up with at the bottom. And I know this is not really perfect, not loving it myself. There we go. It makes more sense. And then what are the assignable addresses? And this one's for the last subnet, it's actually going to be add 1 to the first one, so it's going to be 196.124.12.225 to 192.124.12.254. So those are the assignable. So I'm going to do it up here. .254. And there it is. That's how you do this. Okay, now on to some more stuff. This is a Class B address. I wanted to do one of each so you can anticipate the next one being an A, but there was something in particular about the next one that this kind of touches upon a little bit that I wanted to show you all of them in reverse order. So it's going to be CBA. So here we go. B. I'm going to make this one a little quicker. I had to do some editing for this one as well. I'm not going to go as hard as I possibly could with this because it's going to be this is a lot. That's a lot. That's 6,000 usable hosts. Jesus Christ. We're not going to do that. Alright, so here we have this, and again, you can check out the subnetting chart that you can find in various places. But we need 6,000 usable. Well, there's nothing around here that's closer to that but 8,000. So here comes the red line. That's not going to be long enough. Nope. That's what she said. Alright. So now we have that. Let's mark them. Boop, 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 boop. And then I'm particular, I like this to be a different color so we know. Looks like we're going to be incrementing by 32 again. Fantastic. To speed this up, I'm probably going to just cut to me doing the other part pretty hard. So here we go. There we go. Now it's green. Okay. So here's our range. You do your normal incrementing. This is what happens. And then I'm assuming you would probably guess what can happen. I mean, this is saying that we have a total number of hosts here of 8,192. So how in the hell can we get that if we've already reached 255? Because we start all over. We're now in this next octet over to the left. And the whole thing is going to start over again. We're going to go all the way, incrementing by 32. And it just keeps going like that. And every time that you reach 255, go ahead and mark this for you. Every time that you reach 255, you're going to add another one here. So then it would be 175.26.2.0 would be the start of the range that would come at the end of 175.26.1.255. Alright, so after you get there with the 1, we'll just put a 1 here and pretend that we've started all here all over again with 1s like we were going to do here. And when we get to 255, this is now going to become a 2. And it just keeps going like that. And that's how you would answer all this stuff. And I'm not going to do that because I'm going to go down to the next one. Yay! Even worse. Alright. We have finally encountered the thing, the cider notation. Wham! One of those. Aren't they great? They're so wonderful. This is a Class A address. We know this because it is between 1 and 127. 1 and 127. So we're going to go ahead and pop that in there. A. Oh, there we go. Feel better about this. That's all we know right now. It's got a default subnet mask of 255.0.0.0. And I've already taken the liberty of, using that wonderful chart of plotting all this out for us. So we can just skip right ahead. So I should have put a bunch more zeros here. Just keep that in mind. This is supposed to be like 8 zeros right here. This should be 8 zeros. I'm not doing it. I don't have enough room. You're just going to have to deal with it. Alright, so we're going to pretend that this is 8 zeros. Okay, where we have this cider 16, this default subnet mask is now going to be 255.255.0.0. This does not change the fact that this is empty. This is a 0. This is 0, guys. And this was a Class A address. This doesn't change the fact that this is a Class A address. So it's still this. But we're not given what we need. We're not given, well, we need this many hosts. We need this many subnets. That's not what's provided. What's provided is the cider 16. So this is still a Class A address. We're just subnetting with all this shit. Everything. We're using it all. Isn't this going to be fun? And just one more thing, just to clarify in case I didn't make it super clear to begin with. This is a cider 16, so what that means is the whole thing is worth 32 bits. So if you have a cider 16, that basically means that you're counting these bits here as well. What the 45 occupies in the first octet, that's worth 8 bits. Then another 8 bits in the second octet. And another and another. So if we have a cider 16, that's the first 2 octets. That's all the bits in those 2 octets. Alright, so let's skip ahead. We're just going to take this now and we're going to count the bits out. So basically what that means is, right here. That's it. 65,536 hosts. Actually, 2 less than that. So that's what we get. And that means that our number of subnets is 256. And the bit value for that is 1. We're incrementing this by ones. Isn't that awful? It's totally awful. This is going to take a long time. So I am going to do what I did before and time travel. Woo, okay, that was pretty fast, huh? Okay, so here it is. This is your range. This is how we do this. We start with 45.0.0.0 and it goes from that to 45.0.255.255 and it continues like this. You see what's happening? So this is actually cramming a whole lot more hosts in each range than any of the other things that you've seen before have. Now, they might ask you some really whack questions like, what is the range of your, how many hosts is this? Jesus Christ, like the 65,526th host or something like this. Or like, what is the range of your 252nd subnet? Or some nonsense like this. You just have to work backwards. So we know that the maximum is going to be, this. That's it. That's the end. That's as far as this can possibly go. Um, but yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but the best way to deal with that kind of thing is just to work backwards, and you will see some stuff like that I have so far. And but this is the most important thing. It looks stupid, but yeah, for whatever reason, it kind of makes sense when you think about it, because you're starting with all zeros, and you're going to work in the end and work your way back. So now we've made it back. It just rolls over. Zip, 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 zip. Then you're done. And this is how you do that. I mean, if you followed along so far, you pretty much understand how all this is happening. This is just the one discrepancy that I found to be really confusing. I actually spent more time trying to figure out how is it that you do this one, like one like this, where you have a Class A address and a CIDR that puts you literally right here in the second octet. But this is it. This is confirmed how you're supposed to do this, according at least to my instructor. Um, this is it. There you go. I hope this was super helpful. Thanks for watching.